My name is José Fernández da Ponte, and I am President and Chief Growth Officer at the Stellar Development Foundation. The Stellar Development Foundation is the entity that fosters the environment on the Stellar blockchain, whose mission is enhance access to everyday financial services via blockchain technology. So the blockchain has been around for 10 years, the foundation has been around for quite a long time, and it has already have incredible impact in the world. It serves people like PayPal and MoneyGram and Franklin Templeton. It has helped institutions like the United Nations to do disbursement of stable coins to Ukrainian refugees. It's active in Syria, helping foreign aid agencies, bringing financial inclusion through blockchain technology, which has been my passion for the longest part of my career. And also consistent with that, recently I have joined the International Advisory Board of Santander, where I'm very proud and very happy to be able to bring the perspective of someone who operates on this side of the world, but also on the blockchain space, and thinking about how stable coins and tokenized assets can support the mission of Santander, and very, very proud to be able to contribute to an institution that is a global financial services powerhouse and has a Spanish heart. So super happy to be part of it. With this technology now, we have the first opportunity that I've seen in my professional career to build fundamentally new rails where we can transact at higher speeds, at 26 times cheaper than with existing rails, and not only be active on the crypto side of capital markets, but also in everyday financial services like using your stable coins to pay family back in Spain, or to buy goods on e-commerce, or to get access to investment products like money market funds and others. So I was born in Ferrol, in the northwest of Spain, in Galicia, in a very large family. We are 6 brothers and sisters, with a family that came from a long tradition of medical doctors and teachers. And I think that those 3 things definitely, most of what I needed to learn, I learned from those 3 things. Growing up in Ferrol in the 70s and 80s, Ferrol is a fantastic place. It's a very peculiar town in the sense that it's very industrial, and there's a ton of shipyards, and there is also a Navy town. Growing there during the hard years of the industrial transformation process in Spain, I learned a lot about, I think there's an English word that does not have a direct translation to Spanish, which is grit, which is a combination of perseverance and integrity and courage. And I got a lot of that from the people working in the shipyards, the people going through the shutting down or the reductions in capacity, and the military. When I used to be at McKinsey, there was a person, Pamela Thomas Graham, who was the first African-American woman who made a partner at McKinsey. And she was asked, how do you keep things grounded? And she always says, call home often. I think that's important. You keep calling. Your mom will keep you grounded. She will tell it like it is. I think that tying back to what we were saying in terms of the liberal professions, I think that there is something that gets very much ingrained in your blood, which is about the importance of education, the importance of specific knowledge, professional ethics, and public service. And I think that I've been privileged to be able to be in some very fine academic institutions and companies. I got a ton of that from both my years in ICADE and at LSE. And I definitely got a lot of that from my McKinsey years. Most of my learnings on first work ethic and the importance of commitments and meeting commitments and working hard at the beginning. But also I think that it's important to learn about non-consequentialism. What do I mean with non-consequentialism? We are trained and wired to think that from A follows B, and if you do something, something will happen. And when you spend enough time in business, you realize that there are a bunch of things that you do that are out of your control. And then managing by outcomes is counterintuitive, but it's probably not the best thing. You own the input, and I do believe that there is intrinsic value in the actions that you take, independent of the outcome. Yes, I was very afraid of the transition, and there is always a sense of vertigo when you're stepping outside of something that you have been doing for a long time. But I do think that it's very important to help move the ball forward. I think that there is this concept that when you're playing sports and you want to leave the shirt in a better place than it was when you join, and in many times that happens when you're working at the bleeding edge of something. So I think that part of the responsibility that you have is to help increase the pool of knowledge, the pool of human knowledge, which sounds like very grandstanding, but it's really, if you think of history, as a species we evolved by the accumulation of knowledge. So you want to work on the stuff that is at the bleeding edge, which involves some risk, and you're not always going to get it right. And I think that actually that's very good advice for folks who are starting on high-risk industries or taking high business risks. You want to work on something that at the same time removes a pain point for people, so removes pain from or friction, but also you want to work on something that is new and increases the amount of human knowledge. And that is going to be uncomfortable, and you need to be able to manage and operate within that level of discomfort. Because if you're not slightly uncomfortable, probably you're not trying hard enough. So I've been incredibly lucky to have a very, very supporting family. I've been married for 26 years. I have 3 kids who grew up. My wife, Vanessa, she's extraordinary. She's a very gifted engineer and an artist, and she's by far the most accomplished of us in the family. And it was not easy when we moved here and our kids were younger. And again, you lose a big part of your support network. And what you gain in terms of a really good relationship in your core family, you lose in terms of your connectivity with your extended family and support. I've been very, very privileged to have a family that supported the journey. But we also put some very, very strict boundaries on what is important. Sometimes there is a balance, and we all have to deal with trade-offs in our professional and family lives, but you need to have a sense of where you draw the line. I travel quite a bit, but I have a very, very hard rule of weekends at home, and when I am at home, then is time with the family. And I've been able to put myself in situations in which, can I say that I went to all the high school sports events that my kids had? No. Did I go to a significant amount of them? Yes. So when you need to make a space for that, and it's one of those things that if you don't find time for it, it means that it's not a priority. The world of blockchains is very much predicated on this idea of decentralization and trustless, and there are broader ecosystems. Still, nothing gets built without the work of teams. The relationships are a little bit different. So you're working in an environment in which some of the teams are going to be employees of a company. Some of the teams are going to be employees as a foundation, like the Stellar Development Foundation, which is a nonprofit. Some folks are not going to have a formal employment relationship, and this is going to be more of an ecosystem and developers working out in the wild. Despite the technology and despite the decentralization, people will follow people. So in that sense, and when I reflect on my career in the places where I've been, the places where I've been the happiest and the most successful are places that I joined, because there was someone there who I admired and I wanted to work with, whether it was Marcial Campos in McKinsey, was my mentor back then, or Dan Schulman at PayPal, or Daniel Dixon at Stellar. If you follow people who you admire, who are working in environments that will test yourself and put you in places there where you will need to manage that slight level of discomfort of, I don't know if I am up to this, I think those are the places where you're going to find the most rewarding professional experiences. I think to anyone who's getting started in the journey, I would say, think big. It is important, and think big and aggressively, not only on the economics. Business have to run, the companies have to make money, entrepreneurs need to be rewarded. Don't lose sight of the things that are important. And if you're going to pick up and leave and move 10,000 miles away from your hometown and your support network, stay in touch. You don't want to look back to these 25 years from now and say, oh, I was successful on the professional side, but I totally disregarded the personal side, because happiness will come from relationships